Living loss. That's the definition of we as grandparents are going through when we lose contact with our grandbabies because of adult childhood estrangement. There are so many factors that come into play as far as how it evolves. It could be a family conflict. It could be generational disconnect where we just can't keep up with our progressive adult children and their spouses. And we have unknowingly triggered them. And instead of talking it out, they choose to use the grandchildren as pawns. Not only to punish the grandparents, but inadvertently it is punishing the grandchildren, their own children. They may feel that they are social justice warriors and they're using their protective boundaries. Never mind the fact that the majority of us, we helped raise the grandchildren. We were there for the first birthdays, the first day of school, recitals.
Okay, that's not helping to raise children. That's attending events and partaking and celebrating your grandchildren. Let's just clarify that right there. And even if you help to raise them, that doesn't give you a right to have access to them. And the thing that is always remarkable to me about people like this is that there is so much focus on you wanting access to your grandchildren, like the focus of that, and bypassing repairing your relationships, going to therapy, being, self-reflective and accountable to make change, to be the kind of parent, grandparent that your adult son, adult daughter, adult offspring wants to be around. You just want to bypass all that and you want to start over again and possibly continue the cycle of the things that you did to your adult offspring. We'll just go there. With your grandchildren. And what I mean by that is oftentimes what I see as a therapist who deals with a lot of estrangement, I deal with narcissistic family systems. No, all these situations are not created equal. Absolutely not. I have families. I have more mothers than fathers, but I have mothers and adult sons and adult daughters and people who are working things through and trying to figure things out. And by and large, what I find with the moms that I have, and the dads, but mostly the moms, is that they really are emotionally immature in many ways, and they don't understand what their part to play is sometimes, because what they haven't done is they haven't evolved in the relationship. So as children, we're growing up into an adult, and, along the way, you don't parent a toddler the same way that you parent a kid who's in grammar school, in the same way that you parent when they're in middle school, in the same way that you parent when they're in high school, and in the same way that you parent when they're adults. It's supposed to evolve. And a lot of times in these relationships where there is emotionally immature behavior, let me put it that way, it's a failure to evolve more than anything else. And that's what I find in the clients that I have. That's not what I find in a lot of these creators. What I find in a lot of these creators is they prefer, because it's easier, obviously not successful, to bypass everything that they've done, accountability, and repairing their relationships and becoming somebody that their adult sons, daughters, offspring want to be around, and just focus right in on the children who are going to automatically look at them like they hung the moon. And that's where they get their emotional needs met. And that's probably why they had children in the first place. And so I'm not saying she can't evolve. I am saying that evolution for her is going to be harder. And in some cases, there are ones who can't evolve, who won't evolve. They won't progress, as she called the adult sons and adult daughters, adult offspring. I'm just going to go with offspring. It's so much easier. Progressive. And at the end of the day, if you can create content, you can find resources. And so in my mind, you, her, people like her have even less of a leg to stand on when it's, my way or the highway and I don't know what I've done and all of those things. You can go and find out. You don't need your adult offspring to tell you. You need to get into therapy, and you need to be willing and have the courage to take a really hard inventory of yourself to figure it out. Because even if you never end up in a relationship with your adult offspring ever again, you're going to have other relationships. What would you like them to look like? I watched the Oprah podcast, actually, part yesterday, part today. And I can't think of the lady's name, and I will put it on the screen. The author, psychotherapist who wrote Adult Children of Immature Parents, Emotionally Immature Parents. I think that's the name of I should know, because I do recommend the book. And like anything, there are things that I agree with in the book, and there's things maybe I'm not so fond of. And just like anything, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong or I'm right. It just means that, some things I have a certain way of looking at and certain things I don't. All this to be said, I have to say she made a lot of really good points in the way that she was talking about how there are a lot of parents out there who are parenting based on which I've said before too, the experience that they had, and they are focused on the role, not the relationship, meaning what their title is rather than actually building a relationship. And one of the things, I'm pretty sure it was her that said it, that I loved a lot, is if you want to have, and I'm paraphrasing obviously and even putting my little 2 cents in, a successful, healthy, loving, this is the part I'm putting in, good relationship with your adult offspring, then treat them like a cherished friend. And it's true. And that doesn't mean, cause I think, there's a little stickiness around being our adult offspring's parent and being their friend. I am not my adult son and daughter's friend. I am their mom. However, I'm not in the mother role unless they want me in that role. If that makes sense. I mean, I do consider us friends, but not in the way of not having boundaries around that. I think there's boundaries around relationships, right? And we do need to focus more on the relationship instead of the role, without completely denying the role. And so when I look at somebody like this, she's so smug, and oh my gosh, I don't even know what's happening with the filters. And I don't want to go after physical appearance, but it's just not but. However, there is something to be said for a lot of the estranged parents who are really stuck on presenting themselves in certain ways and trying to sound profound and have this certain smugness. And when you look at them, when I look at them, I think that would be hard to be the child of, the offspring of, the adult offspring of, because there's a certain, self-righteousness in there. And I believe that that attitude is a big part of what stands in the way of repair. And to me, it speaks of a fragile ego as well. I need to be above. When somebody needs to be above, it's because their ego is fragile. Their self-esteem is fragile, that sort of thing. Anyway, okay, let me continue.
And maybe at times we had our adult estranged children or child and their spouse. We provided a roof over their heads and our grandbabies, because that's what we do.
And maybe we made them feel guilty in some kind of way about it and leveraged it and held it over their head. And the only reason I say that is, why mention it? Why is it relevant? What does that have to do with your right to a relationship or who you are in a relationship? I think it's telling. If one of my adult daughters or my adult son ever needed a place to live, yeah, you're damn right they're going to have a place with me always. And they're not going to hear boo about it, and they owe me nothing for it. That's my choice. That's the kind of mom I choose to be. I don't think that's what she chooses to be. I think there's that, again, it goes back to that thing. I gave you something, you owe me.
Is there a desire to reconnect? No, there's not. As I have said many times, this is a power play.
Yes, it is. For you. For you. Oh, she's referring to the withdrawal of the access to the grandchildren. But no, it's a power play. What power do we gain from walking away? Power over our own lives? Yep. And the ego that it must take to think that we as estranged adult sons and daughters, offspring, I know I was going to just do offspring, are sitting here going, ha, I got you, I walked away. It's absurd. It's absurd. I don't think about that. Do you think about that? Is anybody out there thinking, ha, I got them back, I walked away? If you are thinking that way, please let me know. And if you are, can you give me the backstory that would be connected to that feeling and thought? That's not the same thing as I broke free. That's not the same thing of I'm building my life. I'm talking about how she's spinning it to be. Like, we're out here and punishing you with the withdrawal of your grandchildren and punishing our children by not allowing you access when you can't treat their parent or parents with kindness and respect. I mean, no, we shouldn't want our children to see that. We much rather let our children see that our own parents have no love and respect for us and care, so that they can see that that's part of what love is. Yeah, that's such a good idea. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Like, what? The reason people like her, and I'm not saying her specifically, I don't know her, I'm saying from a personality point of view, and I'm not diagnosing her with anything, this is projection. Because somewhere along the line, she likely, and parents like her do, weaponize people, especially little people that they have ultimate control over.
So what are we experiencing right now that we are crashing into the Thanksgiving holidays? We've got ambiguous grief. The loss is ongoing, guys. Ongoing. Because we have not had closure. And most of the time, it's invisible to others. I've chosen to speak out. And I'm going to continue to speak out. because I feel like that so many grandparents need a voice of advocacy and a voice of, hey, I feel your pain. I do daily. We feel isolated, shamed, like, how do we share this with anybody? It's so embarrassing. We should feel no shame. No shame at all. We did our best. We did our best with the tools that we had at the time when we were raising our adult children.
And you know what? That might be true. That might be true. There are definitely estranged parents out there who truly did their best with what they had at the time. There's no question about that. I think that's true. I think that, when we're in family systems and we come from family systems where, there are no other options. Like back in the day, and we've been estranging forever. I've been estranged for over 30 years. There's a lot of family systems, and I see this in my therapy practice, and that's where a lot of this comes from, where it's just not, it's family and you're conditioned to stay in no matter what. But it's your mother, but it's your father, and that's the obligation, and that's what you do. And speaking out is seen as disrespect, when disrespect is defined as being related to disobedience, right? And that sort of thing. So there's a lot of parents who came from her generation, and well, I don't know what the filter, I think she's older than I am. And who came from my generation for that matter. I'm going to be 60 in January. There's a lot of parents who came from my generation where the expectation was you suck it up, buttercup, but it's family and all of that sort of thing. And so when you come from that and then you become a parent and you're doing better than probably what was done for you, you are doing the best you can with what you have. And I come from more the beginning of the therapy generation, and this is the therapy generation, in my opinion, which is beautiful because it is breaking cycles of this dysfunction. Unfortunately, it's also breaking up, what we know family to be, mother, father, grandparents, and all of that. It's not on the estranged adult sons and daughters and offsprings, though. It's on our either unwillingness to change, to evolve, to grow, to seek resources, or our inability to do so. And there are people who have an inability. There are people, obviously, who suffer with mental health disorders, lack of empathy, all the things. Then there are the pocket of the estranged parents out there who, if they went to therapy, they would do very well, and they would likely be able to repair their relationships. And I think it's really sad that we're in this sort of black and white thing that is growing, in my opinion, because of content like this. Specifically because of this narrative. There is a creator out there who takes videos. They took one of mine out of context. It's this one right here, and I'm not gonna, there's a whole backstory behind it. There's another video. I'll link it in the description of this video so you can see what I'm talking about if you want to, who literally is cutting clips of creators like me and therapists and other estranged people to push a narrative that there's something wrong with us who estranged. And it's not about there being something wrong with us. It's about the dysfunction and oftentimes the abuse that exists from the bigger person who was in power, who was in control, who wants to stay in that position because they are focused on their role rather than the relationship.
Hopefully someday they will think back when their children are older at just what we did to sacrifice because we love them. Probably right now, a lot of us are fighting depression and we're fighting anxiety.
Yeah, a lot of us. I fight CPTSD, thank you very much. I don't want to take away from the fact that a lot of them are too, and maybe that's part of the problem as well. Undiagnosed mental health issues. obviously impact the way that we parent. It's just the way that she's putting it that I take exception with. Something else that came to mind from the Oprah show that just aired was something that I think his last name is Coleman, and he said, like, he's been studying this for 18 years or 20 years, and he's studied thousands of cases, and he was an estranged parent who did repair his relationship with his adult daughter. And he did take mostly accountability, I think. And there was something in there that he said about, and this is what propels this narrative forward, which I really want to make sure we stop doing that. And I think it was handled well on the Oprah show because of what, oh my gosh, I wish I could think of her name right now. The psychotherapist who wrote the book, Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents, said, but he made it like as a final word, I'm pretty sure. And I'm still annoyed about it because what he said was, keep in mind, he couldn't help himself. What you're modeling for your children, you're giving them permission to go no contact. It might not have been the final word because she did respond to it. Not Oprah, by the way. And this is like all of these kinds of narratives that are out there. I lost my train of thought a little bit. Sorry about that. That perpetuate not only the myths, the things that are untrue, but also are the things that are leveraged against people insulating their children from grandparents who are not healthy role models. And I just want to let people out there know that that's not true. Empowering our children to understand that we don't stay in relationships with people who harm us is probably one of the biggest gifts and greatest gifts that we can give them. That's going to enable them, allow them, teach them, help them to understand and navigate when they become adults and they're choosing their person, their life person to be with. To understand that you don't stay in something because you're connected to it, you invested in it, or because of any other reason than the quality of the relationship. And that's what we're role modeling. Period. I think she's at the end here. Oh, 9 more seconds? Maybe. Let's see.
And that's to be acknowledged. We should feel it, but then we need to move on. We need to seek support groups. I love this platform because I'm here and I love hearing and responding to your stories. We need to focus on self-care, diving into our hobbies, connecting with friends who reciprocate and love us. And we need to continue to have patience, empathy, and an open door. Especially if we have faith in our hearts. I am thinking of all of you this Thanksgiving.
I didn't cut that off. It cut off. What's the one thing she didn't say? We need to go to therapy. I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for being here, as usual. By the way, if you want another layer of healing and support, click the join button for more information on this video. It's actually on all my videos. And either way, I will see you soon. Thank you so much for being here. Tell me what you think about her and what she said and what she shared in the comment section. Okay, thanks. Bye.